Jack is a normal guy who gets isekai'd into this dark and twisted interpretation of the original Final Fantasy and arrives shortly after in Cornelia with Jed and Ash, each of which have a crystal devoid of life that I'm sure doesn't have any significance to the story. Our party, mainly Jack, is seemingly brainwashed as all they can think about is
chaos. Chaos.
Chaos.
Chaos. Chaos. Chaos.
Come chaos.
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 I swear to God that word is genuinely said around 50 times. The king sends the three of them to the Chaos Shrine to take down Chaos despite having his doubts that they're the four Warriors of Light since he knows basic math. We go cave Chaos's shit in and turns out they were a woman this whole time. Neon promptly joins us making 1, 2, 3, 4 Warriors of Light! The party then lies their ass off that they didn't find Chaos, and the king sends them on an uninteresting story to restore the 4 Crystals of Light. You eventually find out that the party's crystals contain memories from their past, and this little bastard Jack doesn't let anything happen with the characters. Anytime anyone brings up anything to do with the past, he immediately shuts it down, or if any of them want to talk about themselves, he gives them the middle finger.
You might not like this, but you know I like to speak my mind.
Let's go.
So for that reason, the story is by and large uninteresting. However, that's not to say I didn't find entertainment out of it, because it was very funny at times, which I don't think is the emotion they were trying to evoke, but it's pretty hard not to let out a chuckle when there's scenes like this.
Bullshit.
And this.
I don't give a fuck who you are.
The scene after the intro alone was enough for me to know this game was gonna be generational, because what do you mean you go from fighting a tutorial boss into fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars? I bet you thought I only had negative things to say about the story, you naive fool. Near the end of the game, things start to get very intriguing, but this is borderline spoiler territory, so you have been warned. Each of the 4 crystals have dark mist surrounding them that get sucked up into the party's eggs to bring the crystals back to normal. However, if the darkness touches anyone, it sends memories of their past lives to them. And Sophie makes a comment that insinuates every life ends with the same fate. And you get glimpses of that being true not only from the memories, but also from the fiends protecting the crystals, as once you defeat one, you'll see a phantom of one of Jack's friends, so I'm sure you can infer what that means. Unfortunately, the character models aren't the greatest, so cutscenes are held back by a lack of facial expressions, and the voice acting is mostly alright, with some standout line reads by the end that make the ending hit a lot harder. But the story did genuinely surprise me with just how dark it got, as the first few hours really don't give an impression that it's going down that route. Unfortunately, the end twist I kind of saw coming from a mile away, but the lead up to it was still well worth the journey. I didn't think I would feel like any emotion from this story, but I'm glad they managed to pull it off in the latter half and make something actually memorable for the right reasons. Stranger of Paradise will have you journey through many levels, or dimensions rather, which were made by the Lufenians based off of other dimensions they have seen, hence why all of them take after a different Final Fantasy game. And they can vary quite a bit visually, where some look actually pretty good, while others definitely leave a bit more to be desired. Most missions also come with a new gimmick like a blizzard that sure as shit feels like one, because I had to squint with how bright it was. They all are a nice way to spice up the general exploration, but that's not what makes the exploration fun, at least for me. Each mission is very linear, with branching paths which can either take you to a challenging fight that rewards you with loot, or chests, which there are plenty scattered around the map, although the ones off the beaten path tend to give a little better loot. And every single time without fail, they'd set my dopamine receptors off, even though I didn't wind up using 90% of the loot I got. There's also side quests which take place in the same level but with a slightly different objective. Could be finding an item or killing a certain enemy. But sometimes they reward you with key items that unlock helpful stuff, but most importantly, every level brings a new gaggle of enemies, which brings me to the combat. Stranger of Paradise has some of the most cracked out combat I've played in a while. Something that's been gone from Final Fantasy for a long time is the job system, where your party could have one of many classes that you'd grind out to make better. Koei Tecmo decided to take this system to craft what we in the biz call fun. There are so many jobs to pick from, each of which have their own skill tree to fill and a unique playstyle, so you can make Jack the slow, methodical, one-shotting beast, a wizard, or an agile thief that can steal enemies' abilities. And you get to have two equipped to swap between on the fly, which opens up combat to the nth degree, although you won't be able to do crazy stuff until the end of level since abilities cost MP, and you'll build up Jack's max amount of MP throughout the mission, and then you can go crazy style on it. Abilities can be cancelled into a job switch to instantly start another combo, or you could cancel into an enemy ability that are gained by soul bursting during a purple attack. Although to master offense, you also have to learn how to defend properly, which is the thing that took the most time for me to learn if we're being honest. There's your bog standard block that can parry when timed correctly, but blocking forever is not on the table, as Jack has a break meter that when depleted stuns you for a few, so learning when to block, dodge, or soul burst is a necessity. Oh yeah, soul bursting is one of the main ways to raise your max MP, just block attacks with it and wow, MP! But it takes a large chunk of the break gauge, although if an attack is multiple hits, usually you can soul burst all of them at the cost of your entire gauge. I absolutely fell in love with the risk reward system of the combat, mainly during boss fights since that's the only time I was particularly challenged in the game. Jack has the strength of Hulk, so most standard mobs stand zero chance against you, but that's satisfying in its own way because depleting an enemy's break gauge gives you the opportunity to crystallize them with a finisher. And they went all out with them, since every enemy has a different finishing animation that never cease to be satisfying, as they all end with some nice oomph. Doing finishers isn't just for looks though, because it's the other main way to build up your max MP. What I didn't love was the equipment. Don't get me wrong, the dopamine was amazing, but then I had to sort through the mess and figure out what I could use to help my builds. There is an option to auto-equip the highest level gear, which is nice if that's all you care about, but trying to build around specific things can be a pain, and I easily spent multiple minutes just scrolling through gear to see what was best. Thankfully, that pain was subsided a bit once you can put specific buffs on your gear. Those same buffs can be upgraded with materials that are easily gained by dismantling gear you're not gonna use. It's also used to raise equipment level, which isn't the most important thing in the world. The bosses are where this game gets to really shine. Every single one challenged my knowledge of the game systems, like learning which attacks to block versus soul burst, or when to just get out of the way. You can also use MP to enter Lightbringer mode, which somehow makes Jack even stronger, but more importantly, permanently damages the break gauge so an enemy can't recover their gauge after a certain point. And no two fights are the same. Every one has a wholly unique design. On top of that, most bosses have a second phase with a sick ass transition. I honestly wasn't that upset if I got stuck on a boss for like 30 minutes because A, there's always a checkpoint right outside the fight, so no run back, and B, the choreography is just cool. Once you get the hang of their moveset, it feels so satisfying to block or soul burst a string of moves, and then finally getting the last few hits and defeating said boss felt like I just released all over the floor. Oh, what's that on the floor? Stranger of Paradise had a few DLCs released months after it came out, which expand upon the main story, so there will be spoilers for this whole section, so just skip to the end. The first DLC takes place right after the prologue, where you absolutely crush the Warrior of Light, but then Bahamut gets summoned. But we become besties. You get to learn more about Bahamut through conversations, but you have to unlock them by gathering dragon treasure. This is when things take a turn for the worst. So basically, I had a fundamental misunderstanding of the job system and thought job affinity just made them level up faster. I don't know how or why I came to that conclusion, but I did. I probably just forgot the tutorial that told me what they did, but anyway, I had to do a lot of grinding to get my gear and jobs up to snuff if I wanted to stand a chance. So when not one, not two, but 3 things got introduced for me to grind for, I was a bit dissuaded from even wanting to play the DLC. Obviously I had fun at first because I was just bashing enemies into the ground, but once I realized I would have to do hours of grinding for rat tails, anima crystals, and dragon treasure, I just turned on extra mode. Yeah, laugh it up, chuckle nuts. I had enough job affinity on the night class, so it made me invincible during Lightbringer, and extra mode always has you in Lightbringer, so I just dropped off the grind and played for the story. Bahamut eventually agrees to train the Warriors of Light so they can kill Jack and rid of chaos, letting the world finally be soaked in light. And that's kind of the premise of the story, just waiting around for 2,000 years so the Warriors of Light can finally kick your shit in. DLC 2 makes it truly feel like a 2,000-year wait because this shit was way too long. The story kind of lost me here and I don't fully understand why the rifts open. I'm pretty sure something to do with the Lufenians. This DLC bored the shit out of me, to be honest. You go through a bunch of rifts to get dimension points to climb higher in the labyrinth and get to fight Gilgamesh every like 3 floors, which I turned off extra mode for because the bosses are always fun to fight. The labyrinth, however, got extremely repetitive as you complete the same tasks over and over again, and it got mind-numbing to a certain point. Even the Gilgamesh fights got boring since you fight him around 6 times and not much changes between fights until like the 4th one when he gets a second phase, but I was just fed up and the DLC felt like it went on way longer than it needed to. Not to mention the final boss of DLC 2 was really bad. This motherfucker moves at Mach 50 and basically one-shot me no matter what, and did a really f***ed up combo on me. Like, look at this! The tip also lies to you and says the boss is weak in close quarters, which just ain't true, at least in my experience. He has more moves up close than he does at range and would just spam shit so I can never get hits in. DLC 3 probably would have been very fun had I done all the grinding I needed to so I wouldn't need extra mode, but alas. I think quality-wise it's the best. It has proper cutscenes that wrap up the story nicely with the Warrior of Light finally killing Jack, and you get to explore a new level which is very sci-fi and awesome. Also, probably has some of the funnest fights in the whole game if you actually play normally and not in extra mode. Stranger of Paradise normally wouldn't be a go-to game I play, but it was on sale and I heard people say the combat was fun, so I gave it a go and they definitely weren't wrong. I just wish I had done the grinding necessary for the DLC, as some of those fights I wish I could do properly, but my ADHD ass just has trouble micromanaging so many systems at once that I just lost track of stuff. And then I took a short break before playing the DLC, so I just had to remember everything in the moment and it was a headache. All in all though, I was left pleasantly surprised by the game, and in hindsight wish I played it when it came out. However, the marketing didn't do the game any favors for me, which is why I passed it up for so long, but I was a fool. This kind of made me want to check out the Neo game since there's definitely some parallels between the two, so let me know if you'd be interested in that in the comments below. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video now so I can replay Stranger of Paradise, so I'll see you all in the next video whenever this replay is done. Bye bye!